In the previous episode, the battle between Ichikawa against the main kaiju to prove his eligibility as a user of Kaiju weapon number 6. Although initially Ichikawa lost control because he released too much combat power, in the end Ichikawa was still able to win the fight because of the help of Aharu, until Ichikawa passed as a user of Kaiju weapon number 6. Well, what will it be like? Keep watching this video until it's finished. The story continues with Mina contacting Ogata to thank him for helping Ichikawa. Ogata was asked by Mina what he thought of Ichikawa. Then Ogata replied, "Ichikawa is a straight-minded young man who is stubborn and tends to act rashly, but he is also a person who is trusted by his colleagues and is the right person to become Kaiju weapon user number 6. Hearing that, Mina was relieved and said to Ogata that she didn't want Ichikawa to die, so that's why she wanted to hear Ogata's opinion, because Ogata was the one who was most careful about the use of Kaiju weapons. Ogata, who heard it, then replied, "You really often trouble old man like me. I never thought that the Kaiju weapon user number 6 and the young man who has similar characteristics to me would appear before me. I will teach all the things I can teach the two of them, and I will educate them to become warriors who exceed your imagination, because this must have forgotten my destiny as a living person." Soon the news of Ichikawa becoming the first user of Kaiju weapon number 6 officially spread quickly among the young soldiers of the defense forces. When Kafka also heard the news, instead of feeling proud, Kafka looked worried and would not let it happen, because if Ichikawa would become a Kaiju weapon user and fight against Kaiju number 9, of course it would be too dangerous for Ichikawa. But after Kokora hit Kafka's head while saying, "You still don't understand. Haven't I told you? Don't underestimate us. After all, Ichikawa is also a soldier." In the end, Kafka realized that what Kokora said was true, so he shouldn't underestimate his friends. Kokora said, "What we need to do now is not worry about it, but think about what we should do in the future. Besides that, if Ichikawa is currently getting stronger, then he just needs to surpass it." In the evening when Kafka was doing physical training alone, at that time Kafka was still thinking about Kokora's words and then muttered, "Ichikawa is indeed great. He can make himself more recognized by others only with his own strength, but what about me? Did I manage to achieve something with my own strength? Did I manage to protect someone with my own power?" The fact is that what people need is not me, but Kaiju number 8. A moment later, Kafka was suddenly surprised by Hoshina, who said, "Your face is so gloomy. If your face is like that, do you still intend to take a place at Captain Ashiro's side from me?" Kafka, who saw Hoshina's appearance, certainly never expected that Hoshina still wanted to talk to him after he knew that Kafka had hidden his Kaiju identity. But when Kafka just wanted to apologize to Hoshina, Kafka was again surprised by Hoshina, who suddenly wanted to slit his throat, causing Kafka to fall. Hoshina said, "It's a relief that I finally managed to get back at you. It's a punishment because you have hidden your identity from me, so I consider us even after my prank just now." Kafka, who heard it, felt moved and immediately said, "Actually, I have long wanted to apologize to you." Because Hoshina had said they were even, then Hoshina returned to teasing Kafka because he hated Kafka's attitude that caused it. After all, Hoshina actually wanted to thank him for saving Division 3, more precisely not to Kaiju number 8, but to Kafka Hibino, who had changed form without caring about the risks he would face. Hoshina has also heard about Kafka's body condition, that if he continues to transform, then there is a possibility that Kafka will not be able to return to being human. Hoshina also wanted to say, "From now on I will be the one who will defeat Kaiju number 9, so that you don't need to transform anymore and can live your life as Kafka Hibino." Kafka, who heard it, immediately shed tears because he just realized that even though Hoshina always looked fierce in reality, he was the kindest person. Kafka said many thanks to Hoshina for caring about him, but Kafka still couldn't do it. even though Kafka actually also wanted to be recognized for his own strength by Ichikawa, Mina, and also by Hoshina. In fact, Kafka himself is very aware that at this time he will not be able to protect anyone if only with his strength. So, because he doesn't want to see his friends cry, even though it's annoying, Kafka will still become Kaiju number 8 and fight to protect his friends. Hearing that, Hoshina suddenly looked at Kafka seriously because he never expected Kafka to fight in the form of Kaiju number 8. But after Hoshina saw that there was not the slightest doubt from Kafka's gaze, in the end Hoshina could understand it. After all, he himself had also guessed this would happen. Even more so because he thought Kafka was a fool who could even change his form in a situation that made his identity exposed. Then Hoshina was very sure, no matter later death would await Kafka. If the time came, Kafka would still change form without hesitation for the sake of others. According to Hoshina, there is only one way if he cannot prevent Kafka from such a fate, namely by making him stronger. So from now on, Hoshina will teach Kafka how to fight, not with borrowed power, but by honing his own strength. That night, Hoshina immediately took Kafka to a place called Ryunei Temple to train him. Hoshina said this temple was built in memory of the people who died while exterminating Kaiju since the Edo period, including Hoshina's own ancestors. More precisely, when a special type of Kaiju appeared in the Meiriki era in 1697. That incident was recorded as a major disaster that had turned most of the Edo region and various other regions in Kanto into a sea of fire. At that time, people had to fight against the Kaiju in a fairly primitive way because there was no technology yet. Then this is an important place where the biggest battle of that time took place, as well as the location with the highest number of fallen soldiers in history. And of course, if they die, their names will also be remembered at this shrine. Hoshina said, "Hearing that makes you excited, doesn't it?" Without further ado, Hoshina immediately took off his jacket and asked Kafka to start attacking him. At first, Kafka was indeed surprised that Hoshina suddenly asked to attack him, but after Hoshina explained that he was going to teach Kafka how to fight, where this is a fight only with physical strength without combat clothing or shapeshifting, so Hoshina wanted to know how far Kafka had developed. In the end, Kafka understood and immediately replied, "Then I will attack you in earnest." We can also see Kafka and Hoshina who have prepared each other to start the fight. Even though at that time Kafka first threw a punch at Hoshina, it turned out that Hoshina could still avoid the punch easily. Even he could also avoid all the punches thrown by Kafka. Kafka, who saw Hoshina's prowess, began to feel like he would not be able to win from him. But no matter Hoshina had hit Kafka to make him injured, Kafka still got back up to face Hoshina while saying, "I will not lose just like that. Since separating from the 3rd division, I have also gained a lot of experience. So I will prove it to him as a result of various training, as well as the development I got through the battle. I will show it all in this battle." However, despite Kafka's determination not to lose to Hoshina, none of Kafka's attacks managed to hit Hoshina, but instead Hoshina's punches kept hitting Kafka. Kafka began to realize that it turned out that if he didn't change his form, he would be completely useless. Even so, according to Hoshina, the current Kafka had become stronger than the previous one, especially after he saw Kafka's body and movements. Hoshina could tell that Kafka had never been lazy even for a day. Even when he was still in Ariake, Hoshina also knew that Kafka always tried hard. But that's why Hoshina had to say this to Kafka. "You can't continue like this." We can see Kafka in pain after receiving a punch from Hoshina, even when Kafka is still pushed and unable to prepare to fight again. Suddenly, Hoshina is already in front of Kafka to launch the next punch, making Kafka have to focus his strength on one hand to parry the attack. Then he will immediately move on to the next attack. Seeing this, Hoshina immediately held back her power to attack Kafka seriously and said, "You are still the same as back then. You have a habit of relying on the superpowers of Kaiju number 8, such as physical endurance and regeneration ability, but if you continue to fight by sacrificing your body, then you will soon die and be remembered here. Kafka, who was hit by the attack, immediately realized that it was the same move used by Isao when he fought with him, but Kafka never thought that a swordsman like Hoshina could also use that technique. Hoshina then said, "That was a defense force flow boxing technique, which is a bare-handed fighting technique developed from a fighting technique for fighting kaiju that has existed for a long time, as well as a fighting technique that has been perfected by Isao Shinomiya. You can't release the combat power of the equipment you use, so it's useless to teach you how to fight with weapons. That's why I will teach you until the day of the battle, if the changes in your body are inevitable. Then you have to strengthen yourself and reduce the time of shapeshifting as much as you can. The fact is that as long as you still live in this country, the fight against kaiju will be something that is inevitable. Besides that, because the opponent we have to face is not only Kaiju number 9. Then fight and try with all your strength to survive for yourself in the future. Then try to take the position as a companion to Commander Ishiro from me. After all, only your own strength will open your way to that position." Kafka, who heard that, became even more eager to become stronger with his own strength. Besides that, because Kafka also realized that he had been thinking too much about the notion that he was only needed as Kaiju number 8, but instead forgot the most important thing. So from now on, he was determined to strengthen himself. After that, Kafka and Hoshina decided to return to the defense headquarters. But when Kafka wanted to give a greeting of respect before he left the temple, suddenly Kafka saw a shadow of a mysterious figure that looked like a soldier, but soon the figure disappeared, making Kafka wonder who the figure was and what the purpose of his